So I gotta do this video again because apparently I clicked the wrong button on OBS and it live streamed the whole thing to some website that I don't even know about, and I lost about 17 minutes of talking. So I guess I'll get back on it. And basically, what this video here is going to be about is talking about Carmonite and how the community seems to be, I guess, attacking Showtime at this point for his personal beliefs on Carbonite. I don't think they're wrong, but I do want to address some things, maybe clear up some things. Just a little bit about me. My rating in game is about 3,300 ish, is kind of my peak, and I kind of dropped out of the highest ranked legend because I just got tired of facing the same decks. So I know a little bit of what I'm talking about, and I hope that what I say is going to be of value to some people. So, I got a list of things sitting in front of me that I want to cover, and it basically ranges from what is Carmonite and, you know, what are the best uses of it. So, Carmonite is a resource that allows you to make a figure stronger by reducing miss segments or other attacks that you don't want to land in favor of landing attacks that you do want to land more often, and it puts a figure up to level 10. And in order to put a figure level 10, the figure has to already be at level 5 when it gives you the option to use Carmonite to make it stronger. For me, an effective way to use Carbonite is to use it on a figure that is going to have staying power in the meta, one that you're going to use indefinitely, Pokemon that's not going to come off your team as often as somebody else. Like, I believe Lunala is going to be that figure that everybody has on their team because it's just so strong. Even if counters were to come out against it, it will still be super strong against everything else. And for me, some good figures to use Carmonite on would be things like the legendary birds, simply because their wills are so odd and inconsistent and try to do everything at once that you have the ability to increase things that you want. Like, for example, all of them will have a 41 crush move at level 10 with 1 point reduced from another move, and that's going to be for them Steel Wing. So that when you are status, like you are burned or paralyzed, you lose Steel Wing and not Roost, as opposed to the game choosing which one to take away every battle. You really don't want that kind of RNG on figures that are already super bad with RNG. So that's kind of what you want to do with them. Other Pokemon with 8 to 12 miss, simply because a figure with 8 miss at level 4 has 4 miss, which gives you an option to use your Carmonite to reduce a move that you don't want to land. Like, let's use what's a good figure with 4 miss at level 5? Lunala is the first one off the top of my head. You get to reduce that Will-O-Wisp because you don't want to land that move over Moongeist Beam or Psychic, since the Will-O-Wisp is effectively going to be something that's going to pretty much waste your turn. It's kind of like having Protect on a Mega. You don't want to see that. Other figures that are really good with it are Blaziken, simply because its will is good, but it's also really inconsistent. It likes to spin the jet kick a lot. Not that Carbonite is going to help much with that, but you at least get to reduce the misses. And spin again figures. I think spin again figures are the figures with the most potential with Carbonite. Look at Cacnea, how it can just go Super Saiyan just out of nowhere. You don't want to attack it. Charizard, also another really good figure. It doesn't go as Super Saiyan as Cacnea does, but I think it is one of the other figures in the game with a very large spin again with Carmonite. I don't know how big it is, but it's pretty big. I think it might be the second biggest in the game. Other figures like Pancham. I mean, you can use Greninja, but Greninja's spin again isn't as large as like Duos, I don't think. But spin again figures is definitely going to be your top candidate for Carmonite if you want to use one. They often don't take a lot to invest in, simply because there are so many spin again figures in the game. You don't have to use Sceptile, or you don't have to use Toxicroak. Pancham is really good, and it's a really cheap figure to invest Carmonite in. And Mew. The reason I say Mew is because you don't want to spend Psychic, but I guess this is true for other figures with no miss at level 4, because you get to really just make the figure even more consistent than what it is. Like you can have a very large gold on Mew, a really large blue, and a very small Psychic, making it to where you won't land it often as you would if it didn't have Carmonite in it. Same thing is true for other figures with zero miss at level 4 or 5. So basically, you want to target figures that you want to have on your team indefinitely, or at least don't plan on taking out anytime soon, and have wheels that you can reduce something else on in favor of something else. Like, for example, I don't want to spend Steel Wing with Zapdos. I don't want to spend Psychic with Mew. I don't want to spend Will-O-Wisp with Lunala. And I probably shouldn't use Zapdos as a good example, but you don't want to spend Steel Wing with Zapdos. Let's just be real about that. But you would almost always want to reduce the miss on these figures than the actual move, unless you're talking about Delibird, which is a good figure for Carmonite, and that's simply because you don't want to spend that blue, so you do everything to reduce the blue and not the miss, which is the only one figure I can even think of that you would even want to do that on. So what figures are Carmonite bad on? Carbonite is going to be bad on figures with really large misses, like to the point where even if you reduce a miss by 9, they just can't be helped. Beedrill is the obvious exclusion from this because it's a spin again figure, and you only want to spin that move. Hope Beedrill goes Super Saiyan and you kill something. But there aren't too many bad figures in the game that you don't want to put Carmonite on. Like I think another one that you don't want to put Carmonite on because it's super awkward is Tapu Koko, because you kind of rely on Tapu Koko's randomness in order to win battles. You know, it makes it really hard to attack into a Tapu Koko who has a very large gold attack simply just from existing. So if you reduce, the quick attack by 5, something like Lunala might feel more confident attacking into your Tapu Koko. But that really comes down to, preference, simply because you want to land your blue most often if you're being attacked. So what some people might do is like reduce the white by 2 and reduce the gold by 3, or you might reduce the white by 3, reduce the gold by 2. Like I haven't seen any creative things with Tapu Koko. Most that I've run into just choose not to put Carmonite into it because it's such an awkward figure to put Carmonite in. But the one thing I do want to address is Showtime's comment about Lunala and figures in general with 4 miss. He doesn't think that you should put Carmonite in figures with 4 miss. I personally believe that figures with 4 miss are the best figures to invest Carmonite in. And that's simply because you can reduce something else that you don't want to land by 5. And there are a lot of figures like that. I don't think I have any available on me right now to use as an example. But Deoxys Attack, very large purple that sends it back to the bench and gain weight. Anything that minus ones you and doesn't knock out the opponent is going to be, detrimental to your victory. And that's simply because you're losing board state and you didn't gain anything from it. So with Carmonite, you get to reduce Deoxys dimensional slip from 32 to 27, I believe. My Deoxys isn't level 10. I don't have Carmonite in any of my figures. But you also get to increase the chances that you will land your Psycho Boost. So you are effectively increasing Psycho Boost from 51 to effectively 61 because it's increasing your chances that you will land it more. And that same thing is true for other figures. And while I agree with Showtime that you do want to land Will-O-Wisp sometimes with Lunala, there are just times where it just loses me games because I'll double chance Lunala and it will want to will spin Will-O-Wisp twice. I had a game where the only thing Lunala spun, both of them, was Will-O-Wisp. And it lost me that game because I really needed it to spin anything but that or the miss, which is still a very large part of the wheel, is a kill move. And Lunala just did not come through at all. But had I reduced that Will-O-Wisp, my psychic would have effectively been what? Just looking at my Lunala now, would have effectively been 58. So that's basically the thing that you want to do with your figures. Carbonite is going to be used for increasing the move that you want to land and decreasing the one that you don't want to land. And figures with a 0 to 4 miss, I believe, are better simply because you can reduce something you don't want to land by 5. You get the full benefit of it as opposed to saying, well, with Zapdos, well, I gotta reduce the miss again by 4, which means I can only reduce something else by 1. And while in the case of the legendary birds, it works out for them simply because they lose the Steel Wing over Roost, any other figure that's not that good with, which is going to go into a point later on that I want to address that I'll bring up now, Oricorio. Imagine if all the Oricorio only had 8 miss as opposed to 12 miss. You could reduce their white attacks by 5 and effectively reduce either their roost or purple by 10, which is going to be very great. And I know I keep saying by 10, and it's not truly a 10 increase, but that's just the way I kind of look at it. It's simply because you're increasing the move that you want by 5, and you're reducing the one that you don't want by 5, giving you a greater chance to land the move that you want. So I'm just saying effectively that it's a 10 increase to a move. It's kind of like how you play the Pokemon trading card game, and people say things like, we're going to make our opponent play a 7 prize card game. They're not technically playing with 7 prize cards. You're forcing them to knock out 3 EX Pokemon or GX now, and something that's not a GX. It's kind of the same the philosophy here. So that's all I'm going to say on that, simply because a lot of people already, attacked Showtime's video up to hell about it. So I don't want to add on to it. But I do agree with him. Sometimes you want your Lunala to land purple. And a lot of my times, I want Lunala to land purple. So basically, what figures should you target for Carmonite? And I believe I already addressed that, so I'll go over it briefly. And that's figures that you're going to use from here on out, and figures that benefit greatly from it. It's going to be figures like Lunala and your Spin Again figures, and Pokemon with no miss that effectively get infinitely stronger, like Sceptile at level 5. So what are some odd figures with Carmonite? In my opinion, there aren't many odd figures. They are out there, but I don't run a lot of them simply because I prefer to use birds. So those are all the ones that I look at. But the one I want to look at is Decidua. And that's simply because most of Decidueye's will is 30. I mean, if you're looking at it, you have almost an equal chance of landing everything on that will. But most people are going to want to spin Spirit Shackle, so that's what they would invest in it. It's also because it's a really good Mega Troll, and it gives them weight 5, which will effectively waste their turns, especially if you got something like Mega Mewtwo running at you that can stay on the board indefinitely. Giving it weight 5 will just crush his hopes and dreams. But Decidueye also has a really large gold attack, which is a yellow. And I can see applications for wanting to spin that. I can see applications for wanting to spin Grass Knot. But if you want to put Decidueye to 10, what do you reduce? You've already got a 4 miss, so you got to pick something. So do you reduce the gold and make your matchups against, what, Sableye, Mew, other figures like Vibrava, make your matchups against them worse in favor of landing Grass Knot more? Or do you want to reduce your matchup against things like Deoxys, Blaziken, I guess Zapdos attacking into it with Coco? Do you want to make your matchup against them worse so you can maintain a bigger goal? And I still haven't figured out what I want Decidueye to do yet. I want the Spirit Shackle, but I also want the Phantom Arrow, and I want the Grass Knot. So do I reduce the Grass Knot and just have it as a looming threat? I think having a large Grass Knot will be a bigger deterrent than having a Grass Knot that's 19, right? Or do I reduce the Phantom Arrow and make my matchup against Sableye that much worse. Because if Sableye confuses Decidui, then that Spirit Shackle becomes a miss. And that's your best move, like against a lot of things that you're trying to hit. So Decidueye is one of those really odd figures that is really hard to place with Carmonite. Same thing with Tapu Koko. It's a super odd figure to use with Carmonite. And these figures realistically can exist at level 5 and be just better off than they would be if they were level 10. So that's basically, my thoughts on Carmonite. You want to increase a figure that's going to have a better chance of doing something that you want. And at the end of the day, that's all Carmonite is. Hey, we're giving you an option to reduce a move that's not a miss in favor of increasing a move to be stronger, have a better chance of landing it. And that's what Carmonite should be. Now, I didn't know what Showtime's video was addressing, if it was addressing free-to-play players or pay-to-win players, but it kind of came off like it was trying to help free-to-play players. And I'm not exactly free-to-play, but I don't exactly consider myself pay-to-win either. Like, I might buy gyms every month, but I have a free-to-play mentality. I save everything, and I really look at my options before I start using resources because they're hard to come by. Like, I have almost 6,000 Carmonite now, just waiting to be used on something. And the only figure that I have seen so far that I would want to put Carmonite in is Mew and Lunala. And for me right now, if I were to do that, that's already 1,000 Carmonite. A lot of people don't have, 1,000 Carmonite lying around. And I do agree with him on that. K-Dub, I think, has what, almost 2,000, maybe over. There are a handful of people who just broke 1,000. Some people are floating at 600. But the thing is, though, Carmonite is super hard to come by. And it's the hardest resource in the game to get that you can't buy outright. Like, in order to get a good amount of Carmonites, you have to belong to the loyalty program, in which you get about 600 every month just from that. And that's how I've gotten a lot of my Carmonite. This can't be done for a lot of people. So I think it's important for us as a community to get together and talk about the best uses of Carmonite. What figures are going to be really good on it. Like Pokemon like Pancham, really good with Carmonite. Vibrava, really good with Carmonite. Um, other spin again figures, Mew, things like Lunala, really good with Carmonite. But a lot of these figures are super expensive to invest in with Carmonite. So, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and let's grow as a community. And I guess I hope to see you all in my next video. Might not be Pokemon Duel related, but I want to make this one. So, peace.